So this, in terms of symbology, the Freemasons respect predominantly. There's some ordeal they have over a white star, but majorly it's this concept of the all-seeing eye, which they call the all-seeing eye of the law, which even at best is the imposition of their religion idealistically. But you think of what get called pyramid schemes today, and in terms of the bureaucratic infrastructure of working for capital chemists, I once had a complaint that I took to my manager, and he got a bit misty-eyed and said, well, Gary frightens me. And so that was his attempt at a resolve. He actually expected for me to go on just working and consider that the matter discussed and resolved. Was that he shared a fear with me. Oh, wow. But it's structured in such a way that all metaphysical statements, all ethical differences are marshaled between the two of them from the top, as if the two of them together were this, through that fusion-like process I mentioned earlier, which is not gay at all, but they're licensed to diagnose gayness in the populace indeed instead. It means it's hard to it means a lot of double crossing, and it means also that if you're to go, well, I rightfully blame now this boss for this, you potentially can't know that they weren't told by either Roger or Gary, or Roger and Gary, to say whatever they said to you whenever they said it. So you don't know that you're punishing someone for just obeying orders, but you do know what obeying orders is like, having worked for them a near decade. So you're then left with the ethical consideration, because manager Elizabeth Braddon flapped her cunt chins around and said such and such. Does that mean I blame her or Gary and Roger, or both Gary and Roger? Is she on a personal level remorseful for what she said, or in personal repudiation for what she said, or is she in an endeavor to try and crawl more into their asses, which I would suggest Xenical, various types of stimulants, and weight loss tablets, if she wants to be, if she was so disposed as to wanting to be a crawler for the sake of future career prospects. So that's a dilemma they dump on the staff, and it's an unfair one, because it's like it's not quite an oligarchy. That would be, the parallels a monarchical structure, but then there's the two of them. So I use the term monarchy because either way you'll deal with professional retardation in the form of either your complaint does not merit, that's not my boss, your complaint merits censorship, or your complaint is about a matter that the employer above you, the manager, your manager at store level, was instructed or ordered to say to you. And it also means that any ways in which they screw around even their own upper managers will be obscured from the upper managers' view, while the upper managers are being made to compete politely amongst one another for more recognition and more opportunity, and, you know, the gross net profit on health insurance commission rebates out of the tax vault was less in in what Canberra this year than it was in Chisholm. So can the other lift their game and dispense more antipsychotics? Gary and Roger will work the phones, don't worry. So you're also shielded by the confidentiality trust from what it is you're actually involved in. and it really is a structure that is only it's the easy. I think it's the easiest structure of leadership to facilitate and preserve and repeat corruption, various forms of corruption. You have Roger fucking having staff have you think one day that he's military or ex-military, and then he is friends with the Queen, and then at best you work out later on that you were lied to because they thought that, you know, a rock star's art is the endorsement of idealistically lying all the time. When you're hiding when you have research and surveillance locations that are obscured from the view of people, and then you study this stuff from their religious perspective alone, might lead them to be inclined to form that point of view. But when they're religious and hiding in a distant base, in a distant location, and not wanting to get caught or exposed, and into collusion, and into fraud, and and more than one type of sex criminal, then you know, I can understand the thirst for knowledge and the want, like, to help them say that they're intangibly caring to and that they have intangible values that are transcendental of the empiricism that's otherwise tethered to their professional lives. That they would want to do something with ideology, but corrupt that too on a where the all-seeing eye bender of stupid crimes. Stupid counter right started crimes. Yeah, so the other thing is, then when there's a conflict, so if you were to say, well, it's a credit to due process to give the benefit of the doubt to this or that manager, and the highest manager you can ever possibly consult just tells you that they're frightened of upper management themselves, then the benefit of the doubt hasn't been gracefully lended to people who have a questionable level of complicity. It's stolen because they've tried to make it so that there's no way that anyone in an authoritative position is ever wrong. And so that's why working for them sucks. Their work for us all will make you a patient. Policy doesn't get announced, nor does we'll definitely make you a patient if you want to leave us and work on art. Policy get discussed or disclosed upon first encounter with the business either. So despite knowing about scientific method and falsifiability, they've done the exact opposite to what scientific method tries to prove and do in the structure of the business. So yeah, Luciferian mythology isn't admissive of Lucifer pre-existing the existence of God. Is a rebellious creation thereof. So for what it is that I know that at least one of the owners would fervently like to see me involved in, he should be able to imagine whatever he likes by thinking about the aforementioned fusion of male gods from other cultures. Lucifer is a character, Satan, as I've already discussed, etymologically refers to an opponent, the one who opposes God. So if you were to ask a Freemason who was Lucifer's creator, then they would say that it was God, just that they would support his rebellion against God. And an atheist doesn't really rebel against what they know doesn't, what they don't believe exists. So there's no need to build a church or a monument to that concept. It's like, no, we don't know. It's as trivial as the idea that we're born non-astrologers, or that we're born non-educated, or that we're born with non-vocabularies. Non-theism just means without theism, or the absence of theism. Like plants, like when I wrote about plants the other day. They reproduce asexually, which by sprinkling seeds. Asexual means without sexuality. It doesn't mean the plants meet in an underground church to say to sing songs about how sexuality, how they hate vaginas and penises and uteruses and fetuses. Although I could probably write such songs if the Freemasons wanted to make a plant-based church, which would be about as stupid as their church is at the moment already anyway. But just as scientists and anthropologists and commentators on scientific methodology will say that ascertaining the truth value of a concept is very intertwined with how falsifiable it might be, then this is and the exact opposite of the structure that we see Capital Chemist is designed. So it means constantly I can have the content I have on my channel, and anyone other than Roger and Gary can watch it. No doesn't matter if they have bought 50% of the Capital Chemist stores. They're not where Roger and Gary meet. They're not doing the Roger and Gary thing. They'll be told it's none of their business, or that they're wrong if, in the event that one or the other's or both's reputation is brought into the limelight of criticism. Or they'll be explicitly complicit, and will be saying that they're into doing whatever it is that Roger and Gary are into doing. So yeah. So similarly, how do you have the just scenario, and how do you have, and that's how do you have someone like me? Arguably, I should have had given what they knew of my, or thought they knew of my history. I should have had like extra pages version of a staff contractual agreement, but I had none at all for the better part of 9 years thereof. So yeah, And that was so that was a situation where I was getting told the owner of the business knew by genetic infallibility something of me that was antithetical to my tastes and preferences. So, I'm not going to contradict him by going around and bragging about my personal life, but it was it was, to be honest, frightening to see someone so wrong be so insistent that is so right, essentially. Really frightening. I thought I've encountered this sort of idiocy. I've only really ever encountered it in the mind of a religious preacher, a fundamentalist religious preacher. And so, yeah, well, I was surprised that I got to learn that that's essentially who I was working for. And because it would be a suck my dick card for him to produce a research license, he'd have done it. He'd have done it as a gesture of sanctioning respectability, because the mere fact of opening up a franchise is in and of itself automated respect only so far. Like, if you particularly if you have, and it was an environment too where they're constantly talking about, despite the wage being and this post isn't about money, but this speech of theirs was, because it was addressing how and why being on retail award wage equivalent to Woolworths shouldn't matter, because the moral calling and duty of pharmacy assistant work is so much more superior than where you buy your salary and black and gold paracetamol. And but yeah, really, ethical delusions of grandeur are also known to be part and parcel of religious fascism and fascism in religious leadership. So there's also dimensions to how they run the business that impacts the two of them as segregated, don't question us, scaring the store level managers, and that they're infallible, that they make no mistakes. And that's why you don't see any other chemists in Canberra with slogans saying everybody needs us. No. I need your business like I need your cock in my ass, Roger. Did you see the garbage bags left at the door? I'll see you in court. But in how many countries? Yeah, we know what matters. Everybody needs. So an infallible God complex type. I've never made a mistake in my life. Fucking delusion of grandeur is what they're backed by, and let's destroy the most honest thing for religious people to do is admit that they think that what's called the LGBT community, which I question even that definition's appropriate. It's be better called the the reject bin by religious lobbyists on a sexual level than they could be on a clothing and aesthetic level definition, and like on an opinions level, or on a music taste level as well. But yeah, fuck 'em.
I to discuss